Another new day here at Antics Garage, powered by HP Performance. We got a new project in house. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Look at this thing. Man, this is a nice looking car. Chrome just shines. Hey, look, the tips look good. They're even. Oh, wait, what do we got here? We got a Z-bar sticker. That was us old school guys know what that is. It was undercoating back in the day. You go to the company and they would do it. I don't know if they're still around at all anymore, but it's cool seeing one of those original stickers laying around. Nice little car. Been sitting in storage for the winter. Obviously got to keep it safe, got to keep it dry. We got to do some maintenance to it. Stay tuned, you're gonna follow us, go through it. I haven't even opened the hood yet, so I have no clue what's in store for us. I know that we got to do a couple little maintenance items, but man, is that a sharp looking car. Well, I just looked at our worksheet on this baby. We gotta change the intake manifold gaskets. Apparently he's getting a little bit of an oil leak, and apparently he's got a little bit of an exhaust leak. These things are pretty tight in there. Definitely gonna be interesting trying to get those exhaust headers off. Here's one of the critical steps that some people seem to overlap, but you see all this oil sitting on the bottom of this intake gasket? See how it's dry up and around here? Come over here, it's oily. Coolant was good. And you get back over here to this side, coolant was good. See how the intake gasket changes color? And then we go back, you can see it seeping a little bit there. And then there again, back around over on the other side. That is a prime indicator, just like I had realized that the intake bolts were not tight, not making a proper seal. But this thing had to have been smoking like a stuffed pig when it was running. And there's oil down in every one of these cylinders. So it was, as it was drawing the vacuum in, was drawing the oil in right with it. Yeah, see it a little shiny in there. And then over here you can see it pretty good. Shiny off the edge. Yeah, that's all indicative of the intake not being tight enough. You can start to see the coolant seeping out a little bit. This is why we're doing the intake gaskets. It was leaking oil externally, and it was leaking oil internally into the intake ports. Now we got the intake all cleaned up. Everything's all nice and shiny. Everything's all dried up, ready to go. Also did some oil cleanup here in front. As you can see, the oil that was leaking out the front, we got that all cleaned up. Made sure it was all nice and, presentable. Now, come over here to the intake. Intake's all set up. So now our next step is getting the intake back on, and then we got to get the header bolts back on. We got new gaskets for it, and then we're going to do some correction issues. We had an issue with the power wire for the distributor. There's no coating on it, there's no protection or anything on it, so we definitely do not like that. We're gonna see about cleaning some of this wiring up for them. That's just the way we do it here at Antics Garage. And yeah, just kind of, little things here and there. He's got a couple little miscellaneous things. Oh yeah, before I forget, one more thing that I wanted to touch base on is the way the timing was. The distributor was way out of whack. You saw me messing with it a little bit, trying to get it apart. The timing's not set right. It's, they just threw it in there, went, all right, good, it's good. Send it on its way, it runs, it drives. No, we're gonna fix that distributor, we're gonna fix the timing on it. It's gonna take a couple of tries, so you'll see us starting it, not starting it, and then adjusting. Takes a couple little step processes, but we're gonna get that back into play. We can't have this thing, looking like, a 5-year-old decided to put it together. We want it to cosmetically look good when the customer shows it off, but ultimately in the end, we want this thing, the customer, to pick it up and be like, oh my God, what did you do to my car? This thing just rocks. right, we did change the exhaust manifold gaskets, or the header gaskets. They were leaking. That was part of the customer complaint that they were having issues with. We just got to get that put back together again, get the bolts back in, get some Loctite on them, get them properly torqued.
Whoop-ah! I am back though from my trip, which means that we can address some of the other issues on this beautiful split bumper Camaro. One of them being this fuel pump right here. Now you can see here the angle that it's at. It had a 5/16 fitting on it. This is a 3/8 line though, so that's not going to work. But the problem is, when you get your 3/8 fitting here, it doesn't fit in there with how it's clocked because it's a larger fitting. So we've got these screws all loose. We're going to clock this one turn this way, then we'll be able to put this fitting in, get this 3/8 line on. And just like that, you see we got this base clocked. You see this is now coming out at this angle, which means this fitting is nice. Hose is on. Not going to take these vice grips off yet. We just got to get this upper line in. We're going to have to probably bend it just a little bit to get it to fit in there properly. But then we'll be all set there. So you can see we've got our upper fuel line all bent back into shape. It's all nice. And now the one thing we're going to do is fix this distributor back here. Now Bill was explaining it earlier, but just to give you a little bit of a better idea, what he meant was the cap here was we like when we build these cars, we like the cap to be as nice and straight as possible. And so what someone did was they just threw this distributor in there. The vacuum advance was like all the way out, no room for adjustment, and the cap was on. So it ran, but there was no way that you could really adjust it at all, and the cap was all cockeyed to one side. So we're going to drop this distributor back in straight and proper, you know, with the engine obviously in time and everything, so that way that cap will sit on there a lot straighter than it was. So you can see here, like we were saying, that distributor is sitting much straighter in there now, and like I was saying how it was, this vacuum advance was pushed all the way in, so you can't possibly advance the timing any further. Yeah, it was like that. That's a problem. So now we've got it set here. We're gonna go ahead and turn it over and see what happens. So such is life with these old cars. It kind of wound up a little bit back. We turned it back, but it wound up a little bit back where it was. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this distributor out and turn it one tooth, and then drop it back in, and then that way it should be pretty straight. But you can see it fires up, runs pretty well. The distributor, honestly, being straight is more of a personal thing for us. That's just how we like to send these cars out of here. But yeah, not a big deal.
This one also had coolant leaking. We were leaking oil, we were leaking coolant. The intake gaskets weren't tight, so we were getting coolant seepage into the oil. We were getting oil bleeding into the intake valve, so it was drawing it in. The EGR passageways that are in the bottom of the intake and into the cylinder heads, those were filled up with oil too because the intake wasn't tight. So whoever did this car obviously didn't torque the intake bolts the way that they needed to be torqued at a proper torque level.
Nope.
They did not put silicone on the bolts to keep the oil from wicking up through the threads of the bolt.
Nope.
And they also didn't put lock washers on the intake bolts so they can't back out. So yeah, is the silicone on the threads and the lock washer a little overkill? Yeah, but we're making sure that it doesn't happen. So, and they're all torqued down to 30 foot-pounds, proper torque spec for a small block. We got the timing done and dialed in. Now we're gonna go take it for a test drive and see how it is. Now's when the fun part is, because now you take it for a run, you full throttle. If it's a little buggy, you add just a hair bit of timing to it, and you keep going until it starts pinging. You'll hear like a rattle and a pinging, and you back it off just a hair, and that's the maximum amount of timing you can put into it.
couple of things we do at Antit's Garage. It's hard to tell because this car's in the air now, but we had a pretty nasty vibration when it's on the ground. This tailpipe right here is touched right up against this leaf spring here, and it's given a pretty nasty vibration. So we're gonna try to see if we can maybe down the line or right here, just give it a little persuasion, and so that way it's not gonna be making that noise anymore.
We're also doing this. We noticed that the clutch pedal was a little on the creaky side, and right up there it's kind of hard to see. Jack's got a grease fitting on the end of it, but this rod up here has got a grease fitting. Not a lot of people grease that anymore or don't know about it. Kind of along the lines of, well, we got the car, let's do the maintenance that we got to do. So he's pumping grease into it. I don't think this thing's seen grease in 20 years or better. And the pipes are a little rusty because she sits in the storage a little bit. So we're doing some aftercare.
Now it might be a little expensive, but I swear to God, this might be one of my favorite tools in the shop. It does not get easier to fill up your tire than that. And there we go.
Well, this concludes the finalization of the TLC work we did to the Split Bumper Camaro. Customer's gonna get this car back and be like, oh my God, what did you guys do to my car? This thing is like way better than it was. A lot of issues, we're robbing a lot of performance out of this thing. It's got it all back. We threw the kitchen sink at it, maxed out everything we could. We want this guy to be just smiling happy.
Yep. So you heard the man. Another one done here at Antit's Garage. As always, thank you so much for watching. It means so much to us, especially with the comments interacting with you guys. It is so fun. So please remember, like, comment, and subscribe. It's free. It's right down there. Click the button. You know you want to. We got way more coming. Remember, at the end of the day, with these cars, the cost of maintenance is always cheaper than the cost of repair.